World, you're now tuned into Underdog Talk podcast. I'm your host, Eric Jones Jr., the underdog with a heroic heart. On this podcast, I have conversations with successful underdogs, and today we have another successful underdog from Chicago, Illinois. If you don't know where Chicago is, I have the host of the Read podcast, Jai Moor. How's it going, sir?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. First question though, how is the weather up there?
Well, Chicago's a bipolar city. Right now, it's probably like 4 degrees.
Mm,
Yeah, it's
that, that don't sound fun at all.
man, I'm about tired of it. I can't wait to move.
I feel you. See, I'm from Michigan City, Indiana, so it's close there.
Right.
So we got the same kind of winter. I live in Indianapolis, Indiana now, so it's not the same. We haven't got snow. I know y'all got snow, and I don't like snow because people don't know how to drive. It just make the whole like season messed up because people here in Indiana don't know how to drive. I know in Chicago, y'all are fast and furious drivers.
You know,
Yeah.
the fast stuff didn't bother me. It's just the ignorance, man. It's getting ridiculous.
I totally understand. So we're gonna get right on into it. So you grew up in Chicago. What was it like as a child, like growing up in that environment? Because sometimes people hear on the news, they get a perception of how it was, but how was it actually living there, growing up, and what kind of environment were you in?
So my family comes from Cabrini Green. My dad's side of the family. My dad was actually born in Little Rock, Arkansas. Then my dad's mom and their family, they moved from Little Rock, Arkansas up to Cabrini Green in Chicago. My mom's mom, my grandma, she's from Alabama, and she moved up from Alabama during the Great Migration when everybody came north. She moved from there to Cabrini. So that's kind of how I was conceived in public housing. I didn't live in Cabrini my whole life, but I was always there, and I still got family there to this day. I lived there, another public housing project, and on the west side of Chicago. But my roots started in Cabrini. And I know the news media tells you one thing, like how you said, but when I was living there and, I spent a lot of, like even when I moved out, I still spent a lot of my weekends and summers there. I was sheltered there and I never really got into a whole lot of trouble while, I was in public housing. And actually, I didn't start having brushes with the law and stuff like that till I moved to the west side of Chicago. But Cabrini was a fun place to live. We had a lot of activity, a lot of things to do, a lot of challenges. One of the things that was most enjoyable, Cabrini was only probably about 4 or 5 blocks from the downtown area. It was literally smack middle in the Gold Coast Lincoln Park area. You can really, from the building I lived in, you can throw a rock from the building and it could hit downtown. Like we could run from the building and be on Michigan Avenue. It was that close. So Chicago had a lot of housing projects, but Cabrini was synonymous, of course, because of the crime, but it was also synonymous because of the proximity of all these rich areas that it surrounded. So he provided a layer of learning and a layer of experience that you can get nowhere else because of where it was located. Like seconds from the lakefront, the shopping areas, the metro areas. And then it was, these big red and white depressing buildings in the middle of all of that. So it was a fun experience.
Understand. And I definitely know, like, going to Chicago, it's fun. Like growing up, I didn't start going until like late 90s, early 2000s when I was like in high school, middle school and stuff. Where I remember like it was fun. It's like you said, it's like you learn by living there because you could go down the street and it's violence, it's different stuff going on, but you go the other way, it's beautiful. You get to see all the stuff that you need to see, and it's like, wow, it's like it's beautiful. It's a different perspective because sometimes when you live in the projects, you just got the projects. You don't got nothing else. You don't got, you ain't going down the street, see nothing beautiful. You got to go visit a family member across town or whatever. What side of town is that on?
Well, Cabrini, like I said, Cabrini is literally 4 blocks from downtown. Like
So,
it's
okay,
literally right there. It's right
okay.
there. And so,
Isn't the go ahead, go ahead. I didn't
no,
mean
I'm
to cut
listening.
you
I'm
off.
listening.
Isn't the United Center close to there, or it was?
No, so United Center is west. It's on the west side of Chicago. Now, the United Center is in the middle of other housing projects. That's right by United Center is near Henry Horner projects, and it's
Okay,
near another housing projects. They look similar to Cabrini, but they're more low rise.
okay.
But for years, the reason why Chicago could never get an All Star game because United Center Chicago Stadium was right on Madison, across from the projects and the liquor store. That's all that was there. Was nothing else there. So that area is just starting to, look better than what it used to be. Unfortunately, a lot of the black folks been pushed out. But yeah, it was projects all over there too.
Okay, yeah, I knew it was a project by the United Center. Okay,
Yep.
so you sound like you had the environment that could have took you left. You could have been going to jail, getting into the drugs, all those different things, but you didn't. It doesn't sound like you went that route. So what route did you go, and was there somebody guiding you? Was it somebody like, hey, this is the direction you need to go, don't go the direction of where you from?
So I was kind of the child that had 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And I look back and like my mom was addicted to drugs. Like she's probably been clean probably a year or 2 years. She was addicted for like 25, 30 years. But I had a father who was straight and narrow, who taught me a lot of things. Now, there's some things he missed, but he did his best. So I had the best of both worlds, having a mother who was victim to the system and who had a father who taught me about white supremacy and taught me how to be a young black man in America. A lot of other kids didn't have that. And I had my grandmother, my mom's mom, who she was involved in politics in the 70s, and she was already kind of paving that way before I was even born. There were a lot of people that were instrumental in my upbringing. Like I said, in Cabrini, we had a lot of youth programs. We had more youth programs than any other place in the city of Chicago. So there were positive things to do on that end. And when you look at how the public welfare system just traumatized black folks in the 70s, it took down our sense of organization. So by the time I came around, the street gangs were kind of up in arms, but I distinctly remember gang chiefs telling us, like, man, if I ever catch you anywhere near this, we're gonna mess you up. Like you go that way. So we had a lot of people, even though we had negative stuff, there was a lot of people that was kind of keeping us, because I was kind of one of those kids where I was never peer pressure into anything. I liked adrenaline. I like drama. So the stuff I got into, I did because I wanted to do it, not because somebody pressured me into doing it. And the crazy part is the generation before us that raised us, they didn't understand that kids needed therapy, which is why you see what you see now from some of the generations because they never got that trauma checked. And my trauma was never really checked till later on because the parents just didn't know. Like my dad, he managed two nursing homes where he was in charge of the mental welfare and being of people who had mental conditions. He got paid to do that, but he didn't get his son no therapy. So he
Mm.
just didn't know. And even though my grandma got me involved when I became a teenager, when I was 13, I got my first summer job working in City Hall. So that opened me up to a whole new world of things. And you would think that if you get a kid that young summer jobs and get him involved in things that no other teenager can get into, that he would be straight. That wasn't the case. So I got a summer job when I was 13, had a summer job when I was 14, had a summer job when I was 15, had a summer job when I was 16, and caught a case when I was 16, on top of all of that.
Mm.
So I kind of had 1 foot in, 1 foot in, and 1 foot out. And I caught that case on the west side of Chicago where it was no type of organization. The west side of Chicago is the wild, wild west. It always has been. You had those certain blocks that was cool, but they didn't have those youth and community programs like how the public housing had. So on Friday night, or some of them nights when the public libraries close or the park districts close, you out in the street, right? And so it ain't hard to mess up. And I caught a felony case at 16 years old while having a government job.
Mm. Mm. Wow, I got a few questions from that. Wow,
Yeah.
that's so my first question is how was it being 13 and into politics? Like, because I know for me, I personally never really cared about politics, never understood it until I became an adult. Because I thought it's just, oh, the president, the people in your neighborhoods or whatever. I remember kind of like you were saying earlier, it's like the older people that steer you right or whatever. You had people that were of power or politics. You just thought they were somebody from the neighborhood or something like that. You didn't really understand. But so as a teenager, 13, you live in Chicago, your friends, they playing sports, they doing all the fun stuff. You going to work at City Hall. How was that and what kind of experience did you get from that?
So here I am now, I'm 37. So I'm over almost 25 years. I still work for the state now, 25 years into it. And I was completely open to it at 13 because here I am. I'm still playing sports too, but between the hours of 9 and 5, I'm in the office while everybody else probably still asleep or chilling. And I loved it because it opened me up to a whole new world of things that I never knew existed. And Chicago is a political city. It's so political. I think when it comes to organizations in terms of the mafia, the gangs, and politics, it's all intertwined. Like New York has it one way, LA has it one way, but Chicago is all mixed in. So, come from Cabrini. Cabrini was a political, it had political dominance because of the proximity to where it was. So, a lot of prominent politicians came out of there. And the Young Democrats, you have the Young Republicans too, but the Young Democrats was an organization um, that was built to, it was built for, on the national level, it was built for elitists, but on the local level, it was built to pull kids in, to expose them to other things. And it was built to pull kids off the street, you know? And that's how I came about. And so I'm 13, I'm making, $400, $500 every 2 weeks. Like, so when you, back then, it was a lot of money and a whole lot of money now, but when you 13, it's a lot of money. So you basically essentially the plug for the block. Like, who got that kind of money ain't selling drugs? Got work on the street, So I'm 13 in the mall, I'm buying shoes for me and shoes for the homies,
Yeah.
Because not only am I getting a check, I got my legitimate side hustles that I got. So it gave me a sense of it gave me exposure and it gave me something to build on. And what it also does is it exposes you to how dirty the system is, right? Because we all know that. And so I saw all sides of it from the street perspective and from the legal perspective. And the problem is it was kind of a double-edged sword because like I told you, when I turned 16, I ended up getting a job. Back then, the Secretary of State, the DMV, they gave summer jobs to kids in high school, student worker positions. And you were allowed to work in a facility that processed driver's license while you were in school. So I did that. And a lot of power comes with that. Because when you're in that position that young, everybody wants you. And that comes with a government credential. I had a ID that said, Illinois Worker Secretary of State with my picture on there. My name on it was an official piece of paper. And, I was driving at 16. There was times I get pulled over. The police see that, they let me go right away. So that goes to your head. So when I was out running around on the west side, thinking I was untouchable, I got caught up in something I wasn't even supposed to be involved in and caught a case. Luckily, I didn't lose my job because I played it right. But that just goes to show you when you really don't have control on your kids, they'll run. And so I had people around me, my uncle, my grandma, my mom was still strung out. By the time I was 16, I was kind of detached from my dad, so I didn't see him a lot. But my uncle and my grandma, they were positive, but they didn't have the energy to keep up with a 16-year-old because I moved real fast. So I was making money, you know. I was 13, making 500 every 2 weeks. Now I'm 16. I'm pulling that in double the job I
Mm.
got. So uh, that's kind of what it was. Great learning experience. Um, and I wouldn't change it.
Totally. I totally get that what you were saying, like being young, you got the money, like especially at that age. Like I think for me, my friends, we got a job around 15, 16, but being 13
Yeah.
and making a couple $100, I totally understand it going to your head. Then you like, hey, I work for the government. I ain't even gonna get in trouble. Ain't even nothing gonna happen to me because I'm cool. And you got that, and then you got beside yourself. You what they say, they give you an inch, you took a mile, and then luckily nothing major happened to you, but that was a learning lesson for you. Like, hey, it don't matter that I got this or I work here, I still can get in trouble. And I think sometimes young people, they they might be like, oh, well, my mom is this person, or my dad is this person, or my uncle, he a police officer, whatever the case may be. And they think they can get out of it, and they still do stuff that they're not supposed to do. And it takes for sometimes to just get smacked on the head, might get punched in the mouth. You might got to sit down. You might got to do some time, whatever it is. I think as a young person, you went about it, and you only got a slap on the hand, and that lets you know, like, all right, that ain't even for me. I ain't even about to go down that road. I'm gonna keep it moving. So as you got in trouble at 16, you still got your job. So you like in high school, somewhere between a sophomore and a senior. What's your goals? What you thinking about going into school for? Did you have hoop dreams? Did you have, oh, I'm gonna be a politician? Like, what was your mindset going in from working in the politician, but still being from around the way?
And when I caught that case, that was life changing because now, let me back up. What it showed me was how racist the system was. And the night I
Mm,
got arrested, they looked in the system and saw where I worked. So I'm like, oh, they finna let me go. So there was a lieutenant. He came in. This is what he told me. He says, you ain't going nowhere. He said, my daughter needed a summer job, a student worker job. She couldn't get one. Here you is. You going down. He told me just like that. And
oh,
what it was they could have charged, they could have said, you know what, y'all cut it out, y'all go home, y'all go this way. It could have been as simple as that. To me, that's real policing when you're dealing with kids. They charged us with strong armed robbery and battery, the maximum for what had
mm,
happened. And I got so big headed that night, I still could have got away. But what happened was I had to drop. So what happened was when you're 16 in Illinois, you can possess a firearms card. So I had a firearms card, and we all had guns on us that night. But my generation, we like to fight. We never just really pulled no guns out. We had them on us just in case, but that was never the first option. So that night, we all was strapped. So, um, man, some long story short, some dudes got beat out of their shoes, and I kind of walked into it. But when you out there running around, you're guilty by association. You got to help. So after it was all said and done, I was like, man, give me all the pieces. So I took them to because what it was Chicago had gang wars, but Chicago had
mm,
race wars. So
mm.
there's a lot of times it was blacks versus Mexicans all over the Chicago. So that happened that night. So I was like, all right, I need these guns because the police come, we cooked. So I got the guns. I took them to a spot to some Puerto Rican homies that was a little further north, and one of the dudes that we beat up, he had a bike, so I took his bike to get away fast. So instead of dropping the pieces off and keep going, I dropped the stuff off and come back towards the crime scene, and that's how I got caught.
Dang.
So at that point, I'm in school. I'm trying to play ball, but I can't focus because it's some real gang stuff going on, and I'm in the middle of it. And these cats, they wasn't liking me. I was calculated. That's why I was able to stay out of trouble for so long. Some of the cats that I was running with already had 2 babies, 3 cases. You know what I'm saying? I ain't had none of that. And I was still kind of around the element of trouble while I'm going to court every month. And I'm on home confinement. So now I can't even be involved in a lot of extracurricular activities because the judge put me on pretrial home confinement. I had to be in the house by like 4:30, 5 o'clock. And I'm like, man, that's my first case. Like, what's up? And I realized then they trying to slam me. So while I was going to court, man, long story short, they were sending me offers. The probation officer checking on me at school. I'm getting into other stuff and I'm trying not to get in. I had a lawyer. He was a Jewish guy. And they always say get a Jewish lawyer. But this lawyer happened to be a public defender also. I just got lucky and got assigned to him. And he was like, hey, Jarrell, we're going to beat this case. Because the description of them is a black male with a black headband. We had a high school homecoming football game. Everybody got that on. This 2001. So, man, I look up like 90 days later. I called down to the juvenile detention center to talk to my attorney. He got fired.
Wow.
They like removed him off my case with no questions asked. So I look up. They send me this black attorney. Before he even introduced himself, he like, man, you need to plead guilty. I'm like, man, hold on. I've been fighting this case 90 days. You don't even know my name or nothing. You ain't looking me in the eye. That's the first thing you're telling me, right? And I was essentially, man, my own Johnny Cochran because I ain't had nobody in my corner. My mom was strung out. My dad, I was surprised of because my dad was real pro-black and real like militant growing up.
Yeah.
When he saw the situation I was in, he completely did a 360. Like he was scared and I ain't had no fear. I'm like, man, get out of here. I'm not pleading guilty. 5 years probation, me being 16 where I'm from, 16 to 21, I'm bound to get in trouble. I ain't never taken that deal. And I tell guys all the time, when you in interrogation, close your mouth. Because I could have snitched. I took the case though. Because I knew they ain't really had nothing. And I got rid of the guns already. So I'm like, I'm good. You know? So, but they slammed me. And I end up, long story short, they end up giving me, I pled guilty, but on my terms and conditions. So I ended up pleading guilty to 2 years probation with a condition, anger management, and some other community service type stuff. And I played the system basically because I knew like I needed to move on with my life, and it set me back. Even pleading guilty early, taking an early deal, it set me back so many years. And this is what I learned from that. I pled guilty after my 17th birthday. My probation officer was real cool. On my 18th birthday, I went back to court for motion. She told the judge, like, look, this ain't one of them type of guys. I knew how to carry myself. I never wore my pants off my ass. I knew how to play the role. She's like, look, this is not one of the guys we need to be on. He's good. He's committed. He's completed all his post-trial stuff. In no world do probation officers, especially as white, motion to a judge to release a black kid off probation. So I got released a year early off probation because I knew how to play the game. So I got off probation a week after my 18th birthday. So I'm thinking I'm good. I still got my job as Secretary of State. I got my second job at Foot Locker. My background is clear because ain't nothing showing up. And I got a felony. So, and I'm still carrying weapons and stuff through all this time, not even knowing. So when I was 21, I went to renew my firearms card. I got a nice little letter from state police told me I was denied. It's 2005. And I wasn't eligible to get a firearms card for 10 years because of my background. Wow. And that's when it hit me. So luckily, I did some legal research. There's a provision in Illinois law that says if you're adjudicated with a felony when you're 16, you're exempt. I got lucky. If I was 17, I'd have been done. So I was exempt from that law. And as long as your case was 5 years after your last court date, you could get your record fully expunged. So I got my record fully expunged in January of 2009. So it has to be 5 years after your last court date. My last court date was March of 2003. So I finally got a full expungement January 2009. So this is what happens with that. I had a a juvenile record and an adult record. You can't get your juvenile record until you're adult. You can't get your adult record expunged until your juvenile record is expunged, right? So I had the felony, juvenile felony, robbery, and I had a misdemeanor trespass as an adult. It was nothing. It was thrown out. So I go to court. I got my 3-piece Armani suit on. I play the role. I go into juvenile court. The sheriff, he comes out, he calls my name. I said, right here. And he like ignores me. I'm like, I'm right here, Jarrell Reed. And he thought I was the attorney because of the suit I had on. He didn't know I was the defendant. He's like, oh, correct this way. So I go in, white judge, it's a black prosecutor. I filed my own paperwork, my own motion. I had no attorney or nothing. Paid the fee. I went in. The judge was like, well, I'm inclined to give you a full expungement. The black prosecutor was like, she went against it. She was like, well, the nature of this offense, he was like, I remember her name was Janice. He was like, Janice, this kid is in a 3-piece Armani suit. He got a government job. He ain't been in trouble since. The probation officer even motioned for his probation and release early. I'm giving him a full expungement. Done. So when I was exiting the courtroom, I called her a bitch. I'm like, you black bitch. So right after that, I went to adult court. Which is at Cook County Jail, and I motioned to get my adult record expunged. Because now I'm trying to get in law enforcement and start carrying guns legally. So I get in there, a white judge, his name was Paul Beeble, and it was a Hispanic prosecutor. So the prosecutor, before I go in front of the judge, he calls me and says, hey, you can't get this record expunged, even though it's misdemeanor. You can't get this expunged until your juvenile record's expunged. I said, it's done already. I gave her the paperwork. I said, it was done an hour ago. I ran to the courthouse soon as it was done. She was like, oh, that's Judge Terrence Sharkey. He was the judge that trained me. I'm like, yeah. So I gave her the paperwork. I went before that judge for the adult record, got it expunged. So I kind of fast forwarded a lot to kind of keep the time down, but that took almost 6 years out of my life waiting to get my record expunged when I could have been doing other stuff. You know, there were times when I was probation, I snuck out of town. You know, I was across state lines. Like it takes, even though I wasn't in jail or doing prison time, being on paper, it takes a whole lot out of you. And I was lucky enough because I knew how to maneuver the system and work the system a little bit because those summer jobs exposed me to all of that, being around lawyers and judges and cops and stuff like that. So I knew how to talk they talk, even though I knew the street stuff too, you know. So I tell young guys that all the time, man, no matter what circumstances you come from, if you know how to carry yourself, you can get out a whole lot. You know, so that's kind of what my teenage years and my young adult years was. I couldn't play ball even though I had the talent because I was, you know, wrapped up in a lot of other stuff. But I wouldn't change that aspect of it other than getting in trouble.
Definitely, I definitely understood that, and I'm glad you like explained that because it's a lot of younger guys. They I got looked up. Oh yeah, they brag on being or doing stuff. But you don't understand the process of that paperwork on your head.
It's not cool at all.
They can control you. They can tell you when you can do this, when you can do that. You didn't even, like you said, you wasn't really even in trouble. It's just that it was there, and you had to go through that whole process, wasting time, going
money,
there.
Thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah, it's a couple hundred when you ain't even getting in trouble. I got arrested when I was 19 years old. For an ABC violation, and it was a couple $100s to get that and all this stuff. And it's like they want us to be in the system. They want to have control of us. They want to say, "Oh, you on probation? Oh, you got to wear this ankle monitor or whatever." Like I know a young dude. This is crazy. Like he just got in trouble for particularly the same thing you got in trouble for. A little worse. He's 6. I think he's 17. They're trying to try him as an adult. And it's like they're trying him as an adult. This is first offense. They're going to try to hand him everything unless he has the right people or like you did. You research. It's now we're in 2022. You can research. Like everything is accessible. It's easy. Google. Like, and it's not even that you're doing anything wrong. Like sometimes people will make you think that looking up information is wrong. No, I'm trying to figure out if y'all telling me this right information. Because if y'all not, then I can get out of here a little quicker. I can, So I like that even as a young person, the things I took from that, you was exposed to the right people, even though the people didn't look like you was exposed to knowledge that helped you when you actually got in trouble. But you also did the research because they was like, oh well, we're gonna just throw him somebody. Oh, hold on, he got a Jewish. We know how they run. Like, take him off there. Go give him somebody that just working to be working. And you had to go and research your family. Like, nah, man, go, you about to be guilty. They ain't even, nah, whatever. And you did it upon yourself to make sure that you were able to not, I mean, you was in trouble, but not to get in so much trouble that you weren't able to do anything, even though you was in that environment. Because sometimes when you're in that environment, you got one foot in and one foot out, but the foot that's in is on the wrong end, and that'll mess you up in the long run. And I'm so glad that you were able to go through that, but understand what you had to do. You understood, hey, I messed up. Let me not do that again. But let me look up some information because this just don't sound right to me that I'm just about to get in all this type of trouble and this is my first time. So you explained that, that's your early childhood, not early childhood, early adulthood, your teenage years. So now you good. Everything clear, you're able to get your firearms, whatever you're doing. So now what are you doing? Did you take the politics and run with it, or did you
So I
go
end
ahead?
up taking the politics and running with it. And that's something I look back on because when I was 18, like I said, I was 18, my record wasn't expunged yet. But I ended up getting a part-time job. I was playing junior college ball, but I ended up getting a part-time job at Foot Locker. And the crazy part about it is, I always wanted to work in shoe sales. I had been trying to get in Foot Locker my whole life, even when I had the summer jobs. And no black people would help me. It took a white guy, one of my mentors. He went to Moody Bible, which is a Christian college. It was right 2 blocks from Cabrini, and that's how I met him. But he worked at Foot Locker. He used to hook me up all the time. And I remember when he was graduating, he hooked me up and he got me on. And I ended up working at Foot Locker. And so I came at the right time. I was at a corporate store. I was 18 years old, and I'm 37, and right now I got a lot of energy. Then my energy level was ridiculous. So I ended up becoming a stock manager in like 4 months. No sales experience, no stock experience. I ain't even 19 years old yet. And a lot of people was hating on me that had worked there, been there, years. So I ended up becoming a stock manager. I'm 18 years old. I'm in charge of $1 million worth of stock. I still got my little job at Secretary of State. I'm still involved in politics a little bit, but that was my money maker. So in 2004, Foot Locker acquired the rights to Foot Action. They bought Foot Action in 2004. And I remember I'm like, look, if I stay here, I'm not going to last long because people are already looking for my demise, and my managers that hired me about to be promoted. So my first manager became the DM. So now I don't have access to him no more. And then my other manager, he had been there like 20 years, so he on the way out to be promoted too. And they bought Foot Action. So Foot Action's finna bring all their employees over, and they finna be on some straight up political gangster stuff on these shoe sales. So I said, if I don't get out of here now or try to get promoted myself, I'm gonna get screwed. So I had an interview at Nike. Nike was finna pull me in, but Nike wanted me to start at the bottom. And my ego, once again, was like, man, I'm the stock manager at Foot Locker. I can work the sales floor when I want to. I'm meeting celebrities like Jadakiss. He came and bought 20 pair of Air Force Ones, like Kirk Heinrich, Dwayne Wade, all these people I'm meeting, and I'm in charge of all this stock. And I should have just quit and went to Nike. I stayed loyal to Foot Locker. And ended up quitting anyway because I saw what was going to happen. So Nike tried to recruit me like 2 more other times. Because I was so far into politics, I turned them down. And I shouldn't have did that because I remember back then, Nike paid 8% sales commission. So I knew cats that was down there at Nike back in the 2000s. They was making 40 grand a year part-time because it was that sweet back then. And you remember back then, if you didn't go to the store to buy the shoe, it wasn't no offer up, East Bay, it was no eBay, it wasn't none of that. It was at the store and that was it. So it was a real sweet lick to work.
Oh, I know.
And by the time Nike tried to come get me another time when I was like 21, 22. And I turned them down again because at that time I worked in City Hall full time. My 2 kids were small and I was involved with Young Democrats. I'm traveling all over the country. Kind of attached to the Obama campaign, like a little bit, not like in the middle of it, but on the tail end of it. So, yeah, I didn't. Looking back, I should have went to Nike. I should have did it. But I'm satisfied with the political outcome because I've been able to work for the state. I work for the state now. Um, there's some things that I know that cops and lawyers don't even know because working in government is so layered. These people, they'll hide things and it's right there in the open, but you don't know it. Like even with this COVID stuff, people have no clue what they're indulged in. They have no clue whatsoever. Some things I can't talk about because I've signed, NDAs and all of that. But if we don't arm ourselves with this knowledge of policy and law, Black folks are going to be left behind. And like I said, I've worked for City Hall, I've worked for Cook County, I've worked for the state, I've worked for Department of Corrections. I was a correctional officer. I've done that. I've worked for local Homeland Security, all these different entities that I learned from. And I never went to college for 4 years because I was always working. I'm glad I didn't because I would have racked up so much debt and I would have missed out on the real knowledge. Because even if you take a political science class at school, it cannot prepare you for being in real politics. I guarantee you. I don't care what prestigious university you go to, how much money it costs. Unless your professor was a city council member or an elected official, they cannot show you what it really means to be in politics. You got to be actually in it. And I'll argue that down with anybody. So that part I'm grateful for because once again, it was the exposure that I couldn't get anywhere else, nowhere else.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but I like
But
what
go
you
ahead.
just
Yeah.
what you just said. You said instead of going to college and collecting a lot of debt, you gained a lot of knowledge by just going out there and doing it. And I think sometimes people put, especially like, because I'm 35, so I'm not too much younger than you. So our parents, they push you gotta go to college, you gotta go to college, you gotta go to college. But I didn't even like school, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to college, but I'm not going for school. I'm going to have fun.
Right.
And I don't have a lot of debt like a lot of people, but some people have a lot of debt and they can't even do nothing with the degree or they didn't even finish school and they're years behind because they thought this piece of paper was going to get them somewhere. You went to the people that not necessarily what you wanted to do, but you've been doing it so long, you've been gaining knowledge by asking questions, being there, doing different jobs. And now you know a lot of stuff that people that go to school don't even know because it's not in the books. It's something you got to see. Is you got to experience racism or you got to experience whatever you got to experience. And that's how you learn things. People think going to school always get you. Because if you think about school right now, when you're going through kindergarten through 12th grade, all you need to do is learn how to read and write.
Right.
Everything else you can figure out on your own or you can experience. Like I'm not against college if my kids say, well, my daughter, she's 16 and she wants to go to college. And I explain to her, go to college to get the knowledge to be your own boss. Don't go there to get some information and you just got this piece of paper and it really don't get you nowhere. And that's kind of like what you did. You went to college, you just didn't go to a university. You went to Life University. And you were
Exactly.
able to gain the knowledge that you able to see and know and all these different things because you went a different route. Everybody want to go, let's go to this 4-year school. But then when you get out of school, no matter if you graduated or not, guess what? Sally Mae is in them pockets. She's in the
Exactly. And that's the
pocket.
thing. You're going to spend 80 grand for when you graduate for $50,000 a year job. And I find it really, it's like we still slaves because you can go to the bank when you turn 18 years old or Sally Mae or whoever with your daughter or your son, and you'll walk out of there with the financial money you need for school. But if you go to that same institution to go get it, a property loan or business loan, you can't get it. It's crazy to me. And like my daughter wants to go to school, my son doesn't. I told him, I said, hey, when y'all turn 18, I'm gonna give y'all property. Why would I give you debt? That makes no sense.
I love it. I
I'm gonna give you
love
some
it.
property. I'm gonna take the debt out on my credit, and I'm gonna give you the residual. And I'd rather pay 20 years for a piece of property or 10 years than be paying 30 years for some doggone college. Man, in 40 years, colleges won't even be here no more. It's all this stuff gonna be online. Universities won't even be they'll be a thing of the past.
Hey, I love that. Like you said, hey, when you turn 18, I'm gonna give you some property because us, our age, our culture, our parents, the generation before us. When you turn 18, you go to school and you get out of my house. That ain't how it's supposed to go. I
Exactly.
love that you said that. And for me, my son, because my daughter is, she's older. She's like my stepdaughter, but it doesn't take away from anything with her. So with her, the other day or a week ago, she was talking about stock, and I was like, okay, I don't know a whole bunch about it, but I know all these YouTube videos. I know these people I follow on Instagram. I sent her a video. She was able to get her own stock. So now, she's figuring that out. That could be something that she got. She's a junior. She might be able to figure out and had a dollar amount that she want and be like, I don't know if I really want to go to school, but if she want to go to school, she might be able to pay for it herself. My son, I got him his own business. It's a clothing line. I put it in his name. It's me and him. So if anything ever happens to me, it's in his name. He still got it. And I don't think I would say there's a lot of people that do, but a lot of people that come from the low ends, they don't see that. They don't understand. Like you're supposed to set your kids up for success, not, oh, you go to school and you get out of my house. Because think about that when we was kids. Oh, we 18, we got to get out. We don't know nothing about nothing. Life didn't beat us up as soon as we turned 18 and we thought we was grown. But with parents like you, parents like me, setting your kids up, putting them in the right environment or the right mindset, that's going to help them in the long run so they ain't going through the struggles that we go through as 30, still figuring out life. We dang near, you almost, some of us almost 40 or 40 and parents didn't, or they didn't utilize the resources that they had. We definitely have a lot more resources, but I just like that you said that. Like that makes me want to have to do something for my kids on their 18th birthday to help them in the long run instead of giving them debt.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
So where are you? So you didn't told us you did the politics. You learned a lot of stuff. You experienced things. You got your kids. Where are you at now? What have you helped the community? Are you still working in the community? How are you? How are things going for you now?
So I can't complain. Things are going good. The bad stuff or the things that wasn't going right, that was my fault. But moving forward, things are going okay. I got the teenagers. I still work for the state now. I work in a division where we audit cemeteries and funeral homes. There's a agency for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like I told you, like I'm tired of cold. I'm moving out of Chicago when my kids graduate. Shortly after that, so about 4 or 5 years, about 3 4 years, I'm probably gonna go to Florida, somewhere warm. But I'm getting into real estate. Like I said, properties, it's kind of the thing. You got to have some property, so I'm doing that. Uh, I got the podcast stuff going. Um, like I told you, I always had a passion for retail and shoes, so I got that going on the side too. I got an offer a page called Licensed Apparel and Shoes, and uh, like people who still like wearing Jordans and stuff like that, I got that stuff authentic because of my past relationships. So a lot of times, when that stuff sell out in the store, if sell out online, it's gonna be triple the price. My price still gonna be reasonable. It ain't gonna be cheap, but it ain't gonna be no $500 either. So I got
Yeah,
some things I'm working on or whatever. Um, I'm not involved in politics as much anymore because I'm gonna be honest with you. Some of these black politicians, they ain't really helping young black people, man. They not. Like a few of them are, but they think because they gave you a $50,000 a year job that you their personal slave. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like slavery just don't stop. It's everywhere, man. It just don't stop. So um, I'm not involved in politics anymore. I still work for the government just because it's just a sweet gig. But
Yeah.
outside of that, I'm kind of doing my own thing right now, and I'm looking at economics. I'm looking at different ways to make money, and which was what I've always looked at. But now I'm investing my time for me and my kids, not for somebody else. Um, you take a place like Chicago, where uh, Chicago has over 1,800 churches. Over 70% of them are in the black community. Where I live right now, I can throw a rock from where I'm sitting at right now, and that rock will hit 7 churches within a 4 block radius. There should not be that much economic strife and hopelessness in the black community with that many community organizations, churches. Churches were supposed to be the foundation of the black community. But once again, all that crap is slavery. Religion has created more separatism than racism itself. How many
Mm.
times have some of y'all out there in the audience been behind on your light bill or been behind on something? You were able to go to the church and get help with your light bill. Crickets. Right. Church ain't doing nothing. Like they want you to put a collection plate and get your 10%, but they want you to pray for your problems. Stop. And there's certain family I don't go around no more just because of that. It's like Chicago got 1,800 churches. You go in the white community, you might have 1, maybe 2 churches. And they're maybe not, stuff goes on in the white community too, but I guarantee you that church is going to make sure that that community in that white community or whatever community that's in, they're going to be economically stable. Like,
So let me not even cut you off because because when you were saying that, so I started going to all white church because this lady, black lady at my job, invited me, and like you said, like I definitely have got help from a black church, but this white church, like I was going there, I was interest, all that. I ended up having a new car. My rent was paid for the rest of my lease, and they even paid off some debt just by me going there and being a participant. And even though like I didn't have a car at the time, me just showing up, they looked out. And when I got the car, I'm like, this is a movie, this fake. I ain't never heard this, never seen this. And it wasn't like, oh, the car that the old man had at the church that he didn't. No, it's a nice car. And I was like, what the heck? And I've got help from church. I've, my pastor the church that I go to is black church, but it's multicultural. So I would say with even just that energy, having the multicultural and the white culture, I've definitely received blessings in there rather than going to all black church. So I definitely understand personally where you're coming from when you say that because I have a clothing line and I made a shirt, a hoodie that said relationship over religion because that religion stuff it's just crazy to me. And
it's nonsense. It's
yeah,
slavery.
yeah, it really is because it's like if you go to church, right? It say come as you are. If I want to come in my flip flops, my fitted hat, my sweats, and a t-shirt, I should be able to because I came to get the word from God, not from you, Sister Tree, not from you, Deacon, not from you. I came to get it for myself. And maybe I don't got no shoes. Maybe I ain't got a hoodie or whatever. I'm supposed to a suit or whatever. And it's just crazy how people judge you. The most judgmental people are church people.
Exactly. And
Hands down.
church is
And
supposed to be wherever the need is. It don't have to be inside some fancy structure. So if there's a need on Pulaski Street on the west side of Chicago, that's where church gonna be held at. That's how I look at church, right?
yes.
And yeah, like you said, you went to the other church, and here they are. They're being fruitful and making sure that people that are in need got what they need. Ain't that crazy? It's not
Listen,
crazy. It's
crazy.
right. That's what God intended. But here you are, been
Yeah.
around these black folks your whole life, and they ain't doing nothing for you.
Yeah, that's like I don't even like you're making me like really, really look at it. I think this is the first time I've had a conversation like out in the open about this. Like it's crazy. I just
Yeah,
don't I just don't you don't understand it. It's like we black. We supposed to be together, but we and part of it is because of slavery and all the stuff that happened to us and we didn't never fix it or we didn't understand. Now we're understanding, but we're still at odds because of back in the day, or it's light skin versus dark skin, or because I struggled, I had to eat out of this, or my family it went rough. That just means your parents didn't do what they were supposed to. That don't mean like you better, like your story better than mine because I didn't start off struggling. Like
Right.
just because like that's the craziest thing about us. And then you could go somewhere, another culture, you see them, they rocking together. When you go to the marathons, but you see the family. You didn't see the son grow up. The son like your cousin, because you seen him grow up. He was just cash register. He running the gas station. We can't do that. And then, like you said, it's a problem. Or the deaths and the killings. Where the church at? Like we don't need you
Exactly.
to come and preach to us. No, just come and show us that you're a real human being. And how can we work together with y'all? Like instead of y'all, whoa, this is what no, reach the people how you need to reach the people. Don't reach the people how you think you need to reach the people. And that's because a lot of the churches, it's churches in the community, but the church in the community, they
Exactly.
just they just got a building in there. They just got a building in the area, and they like, oh yeah, we got a church on the west side of Chicago, but y'all ain't did nothing.
Nothing.
You ain't had a fish fryer, nothing, nothing to help the community, but you want us to come into your church and do all these things for your church. No, it don't work like that. And I'm glad that there's other people that think like that and will say it out loud, because sometimes people scared to say it. Like
Yeah.
about our church, like religion is out of, it's made up. It's not even like it doesn't even make sense to make it real. Like to go off this religion and all these different things that, why am I listening to you? What have you done in life? Oh, because you went to the church school. I'm supposed to just listen to you? Nah, you because most of the church. Never mind. I ain't even gonna go into what the church do. I'll be on here too long. But I definitely glad someone else understands that. And then I'm glad you understand like the government part of it. Like we see the TV, we watch the shows and you kind of see it, but when you actually live it, you get to see and you like, man, I don't know. This ain't really what it's supposed to be. And it's hard to make changes because everybody not on board. So um with that, what's your podcast about? Like what when people listen to your podcast, I got the link, I had a link and everything. What are they getting from your podcast? Because you have a lot of information. You similar. It sounds similar to me, but what are they getting from your podcast?
For my podcast, I cover an array of subjects, and I hate to be kind of all over the place, but I would be doing a disservice to the people that look like me, that are in my age bracket, if I didn't share some of the stuff that I've ascertained over all these years. So I've been able to rub elbows and be in the back rooms of places where I was the only young black kid in there, right? The job I
Mhm.
got now, where I work at right now, in my little small department, I'm the only young black guy there, right? So my podcast is about the information, right? That's first and foremost. It's about the information that you might not learn elsewhere. That's what I'm about off the top. Then my YouTube channel is the same thing, but with the YouTube channel, I like to visually uh people who are artists, not necessarily rap artists, but people who just artists in their own right. You can be an artist by, you know, being a good reader or a good typist. So I like to give people that exposure who might not get that exposure elsewhere. But I'm about the information, and the information is not being shared with you like how it should be. And I'll give you an example of that. And like I said, I don't like to get in those COVID arguments. I don't even talk about that stuff. But I'm gonna how you look. Just look at this. If COVID is supposed to be about the health and welfare or safety of people, to me, this should have been done already. It's taking entirely too long, right? It's too much
Mhm.
crap going on. And so the reason why I say that is, if it's supposed to be about the health and welfare of people, why is the COVID vaccine on the stock market? And I bought
Mm,
it when Moderna opened last year, opened at $52 a share. Now it's over almost 400, about 350. So if it's supposed to be about getting out of this pandemic and the health and safety of the people, it shouldn't be about money. It should only be
That's
about money. So people can't even see that. They so in a rush. Like I said, if you want to get the shot, cool. That's your thing. You know, I work for the government. I ain't even get one. You know, it's ways around it. But you gonna put some in your arm. We've been putting foreign substances in our body for years, Black people. You gonna go get a shot. They gonna pay you for a shot, but all the white boys and all the Republicans and white supremacists like, nah, we ain't getting no shot. We finna make some money off this shit. They on the stock market. Why you getting a shot?
wow. Wow. So with that being said, yeah, make sure y'all tune in to his YouTube and his podcast, because that's the kind of information we need. Like, I'm sitting over here like, hold on, ain't nobody know that? Like, it ain't like I just like, I still, around the way, hang out with my homies or whatever, but I know some people and ain't nobody even mentioned, like, nobody know that. Like, that's crazy. That, and you wouldn't know that if you weren't in the rooms, or if you weren't, if you were, when you were 16, if you would have just been like, oh, skip this, I'm gonna take the plea, I'm gonna do whatever they tell me to do, but you went about it your own way. You said, let me do a little research.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't for that, for you getting out of that, not getting in major trouble, you might not have had that. You might not have had that job. They're like, oh no, we can't hire you. Oh, you done for it.
Yep.
Since you weren't, and you were able to, now you see and learn different stuff that can help your people, which is very powerful. And it's not like, oh, he coming up with some no, it's actual stuff like
These
that.
facts. Like, I got paperwork for all of this. I don't just talk.
No, that is like mind blowing that the vaccine is on the stock market. And
you can look at the stock quote up right now. I think Moderna's stock quote is MDRA. Look it up right now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, that. Hey, so it's people making bank off that because everybody want to get the vaccine. You can't go to a concert. You can't go to football, basketball. They are. Oh my goodness.
It's a game. It's all a game. And when you think about it, I'm going to say this last thing. When you really think about it, slavery was psychological warfare, right? Which is still going on right now. Drugs were chemical warfare, right? So if slavery was psychological warfare and drugs were chemical warfare, the food has been part of chemical warfare. These different chemicals and medicines is biological warfare. It's all the same. It's a trifecta. It's all the same thing. Psychological, chemical, biological. That's all it is.
Yep. And a lot of people, like, that's why I don't really get into all the roo-ah and all that. We ain't gonna, I'm not gonna stick on the subject, but it's just, you just can't. But then now I'm about to be looking up. I'm about to be researching, like, hold on, what's really going on here?
Don't get into no arguments, make your money. And when people say you make money and be like, how'd you do that? Like, while you was over there doing that, this is what I was doing.
Yep. Yep, that's crazy. So, do you have any other ways people can reach out to you besides your podcast or your YouTube channel? Do you have anything else going on?
So basically right now, like I said, YouTube is at In Perspective TV, Apple, Spotify, Anchor, Google is a Daily Read podcast. I'm on Facebook as Jai Moor. I don't have an IG page right now. I shut that down just because I'm working on some other stuff. But right now, those three places, I'm actually on YouTube more than anything. And you can you can comment on some on YouTube and I'll see it, So I'm very accessible. And then if it's something that you got a question about or something you want me to help you out with and it's really robust, I'm there. I got you. I'm very accessible. Like I said, I'm on Facebook. That's what I got I'm working on right now. There's some other stuff in the works too, because I'm all about, information. I'm all about really just trying to build up the Black family. And it don't got to be my family. It could be somebody else's family as long as I'm able to help. So between those three platforms, I'm very accessible.
and I definitely will have the links. And like he said, he's accessible. So I had a last minute cancellation. I went to a podcasting group. He's the first person that wrote me. So I'm like, bet he owned it. And we conversed, talked a little bit before this, and we're here now. So I thank you for, because I definitely didn't want to have to push back my date. I've been, I just restarted my podcast because I had to rebrand it, and I wanted to stay on schedule. So I thank you for being accessible and being able to be a last minute slide in, and just being able to add value. Like I read your bio, I'm like, okay, definitely wasn't expecting the information, not just the part that we just heard, but just the whole thing. Like, and it's gonna help some young people, because there's a lot of young people that's teenagers going through one foot in and one foot out. Like, you gotta know what you want to do in your life, and you gotta go for it yourself. Like you said earlier, your family, they well, you're just gonna be a statistic. So we'll see you when we see you. We're still here to support you, but go ahead and take that guiltiness. And it's like, no, I ain't want that. So I appreciate you for dropping the knowledge. I don't know exactly what I want to name it yet, because I usually go off of something that somebody said. That's a couple things on here. I might have to re-listen to it before I actually name it. Are you a Bears fan?
I am a Chicago fan. I'm just pissed off with the Bears right now because their management sucks.
Okay. All right. I
Yeah.
just thought about that. Only thing I got to say, I know you're gonna have a comeback because we just lost last week, this weekend, but go Pack, go. I'm a Packers fan. Y'all could talk about us in the playoffs, but y'all don't never make it. But we're not gonna, I'm not gonna do you like that. You've actually been a cool dude. I'm not gonna talk my trash. But again, I appreciate you. I will have all his links in the descriptions where you can reach out to him. Go check out the podcast. Go check out the YouTube channel. This is a very wise guy, and he's giving out the information, and he's giving it to where we can understand it. Sometimes people get information and they want to act a certain way or try to present it a certain way. The guy like next door, you're sitting on your porch, you're talking to him, drinking your coffee, you're gonna get your information, and information that can actually help you and make you think. Because I'm definitely about to get off here and do some research and check some stuff out, because that's just that. Yeah, that's crazy. What is, like, not a quote of the day, but what's some tips you could give some younger people, or just people, because we're still young. We're under 40. Not meaning that if you're 40, you're old, but for the younger generation, the upper coming generation, maybe your kids' age, 2025. What's some type of thing they can take away from what you got to say today?
Well, I tell young people, no matter what you're doing, be calculated and look at the totality of the circumstances. I don't care what it is. And when you do those two things, um, you'll be put in a good position to be very successful, no matter what you're doing. So be calculated and look at the totality of the circumstances.
I love it. So I think I got the name. It's gonna be calculated. I appreciate you again, sir. I thank you for just showing up, because sometimes all it takes is someone just to show up and show that they support what you're doing. We don't know each other from a can of paint, but this was a great conversation. You can reach me on any podcast platform, Underdog Talk, email Underdog Talk Podcast. If you want to be on the show, if you know somebody, if you got any suggestions, we're on IG, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, Underdog Talk Podcast. Again, I thank you, Mr. Moore, for being on the show. And like my mom say, peace, one love.